Hello everyone. So in this video we'll see continuation of module 2 threading issues, a small topic from threading and process scheduling. So in threading issues we all know how to create a thread and what are the different APIs supported by different operating systems and all. So now we'll see what are the threading issues can be faced. Like first one is, what if a thread calls fork and exe. So if a thread calls fork, there are two types of actions to be done, like either to create a child process, copy entire thing from a parent process and execute them, or to ask the permission of parent process what to do. So next one is cancellation. So terminating a thread before it is completed its task, it's like we call this stage is called cancellation. So we have two types of cancellations, asynchronous and deferred cancellation. Cancelling a thread immediately is asynchronous cancellation. In the second one, the target thread periodically check whether it is terminated or not, like whatever the thread function is there, as it completed and cancelled or not, completely checking on it. Next one is signal handling. So signals are used to notify a process that a particular event has occurred. A signal may synchronous or asynchronous. So in synchronous signal delivered to a some program, like illegal memory access, divide by zero errors and all those. And in synchronous signals is sent to another program, like using control C and all those. Next one is thread pool. So let's consider an example. What if we have a web server and it is creating a thread for every client? So it is taking more time while serving a client, like it is taking a time to create a thread then serve a client. Instead what we'll do, we'll keep multiple threads in a thread pool. Whenever client starts asking a request, one thread is assigned for the client. So this is called thread pool, like it will be having ready threads which can take up some action. So in the client server model, that there is an expectation of client to be coming and we know what a thread should do also. So create a threads, like similar threads in a thread pool. Whenever the action comes, assign one thread to that action required. Next one is thread specific data. The data where the threads, like data of a threads, like what is the thread identification, attributes and all these are thread specific data. Major threads libraries like pthread, Win32, Java provides, like it supports thread specific data for maintenance of threads. So these are the thread issues we have to look up and maintain them. Next one is we'll go for process scheduling. Before process scheduling, we'll see the concept, like basic concept, how a process is executed in CPU. So when we take a CPU, like there is two categories of burst or two categories of execution. CPU burst, where CPU cycle is executing, means CPU is executing. Input output burst is like when CPU is under idle state and input output function is executing. So this is like basic, like two concepts how this process gets executed. One is under CPU burst and one is under input output burst. So once a process is executing, it is a combination of CPU burst and input output burst. So when load, store, add, store, read from files and all is under CPU burst, waiting for input output will be under input output burst again. Store, increment, index, all this comes under CPU burst. So every process under execution has to go a cycle of CPU burst and input output burst cycle. So we call this as CPU input output burst cycle. Next one is CPU scheduler. So we all know long term scheduler and short term schedulers. For process scheduling, we'll take up short term schedulers. So in short term schedulers, what happens? CPU time is divided into time quantums or CPU time slices, and each time slice is allocated to a process based on this criteria. Like the scheduling takes place based on these criteria, these four criteria. First one is switching from running to waiting state. If a process is switching from one running to waiting state, then CPU has to schedule. Switching from running to ready state. Next is switching from waiting to ready state and running to terminate state. Next one is scheduling criteria. What and all the condition you have to take care before scheduling, like before taking an example, like before implementing a scheduling algorithm. First one is CPU utilization. This scheduling algorithm should make sure CPU to be utilized properly, like CPU should be busy every time, not in idle state. Next one is throughput. So the throughput of processing should be high, means it should meet the expectation. Turnaround time, the time, like the amount of time to execute particular process. Waiting time, the time where the process is waiting under ready queue is waiting time, which should always be less. Next one is response time, the time, like amount of time taken from a process when it has sent a request and when it is first responded. Like if a process is sent a request at 1 second, but first it got time scheduling at 5th second, so response time will be like 4 seconds. Next one is scheduling algorithm optimization criteria. So if you are scheduling, like if you are implementing any scheduling algorithm, it should meet maximum optimization criteria, like it should have maximum efficiency. So max CPU utilization should be there, it should give maximum throughput, minimum turnaround time, means minimum amount of time which has taken for complete execution, minimum waiting time and minimum response time. So first algorithm in process scheduling is first come first out. So here first we will take, first what we'll do, we'll take process, we have process and amount of time the process needs to execute. In first come first out, it is very simple. If you have a Gantt chart, this chart we call it as Gantt chart. So it always start with the 0th second and till the execution of all this process. So here the first process which has come first is P1. So first allocation is for P1. So P1 has started at 0th second till the burst time of 24 seconds. So next process which has arrived is P2. Next allocation is P2. So from 24 plus 3, it has taken 27 seconds. So next is P3. So P3 has arrived next. So P3 has 3 seconds of burst time. So from 27 to 30. 27 plus 3 gives 30. So third allocated is P3. So based on first come first serve, FEFC, it's very simple. Based on the process arrived first, allocated with the burst time what it is having. So waiting time is like for P1 it is 0 seconds, P2 it is waiting for 24 seconds, P3 is waiting for 27 seconds. Average waiting time is addition of all waiting times by total number of processes. 0 plus 24 plus 27 by 3 equal to 17. So average waiting time is 17 seconds. So first first come first serve scheduling, if your process is shifted, like first process arrived is P2, P3, P1, then P2 is allocated first, P3 next and P1 last. So waiting time is like P1 was waiting for 6 seconds, P2 was waiting for 0 seconds, P3 was waiting for 3 seconds. So P2 was waiting for 0 seconds, P3 for 3 seconds and P1 for 6 seconds. So we can calculate average waiting time as well. So short process behind, like if a process which is very long execution time, like a process with very long execution time is at the first, then other process has to wait for long. If the process with shortest waiting time is at the first, then the next process can get CPU scheduled very soon. So I hope you understood this algorithm. So next scheduling algorithm we'll see in next video. Thank you.